Howdy, friends. Welcome again to the Mic Check. My name is Mike Rule, pastor of Highlands Bible Church here in beautiful Vernon, New Jersey. Welcome to the Mic Check, the podcast where we seek to strengthen the church to make a stronger defense of the faith by biblically checking the unbiblical. On today's podcast, we welcome Steve and Noelle Barlow, members here with us at Highlands Bible Church, and newlyweds, and we're going to biblically check dating. Let's get after it. So, dating. Biblically checking dating. The funny thing is that dating doesn't occur in the Bible. We don't really see dating in the Bible. We see men and women. We see God created them. Genesis 1, we see God created them male and female, right? We've talked about that many times, that one verse in Genesis 1:27. So God created them in his own image, God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him, male and female, he created them. And he created them for a specific reason. And that verse is given a couple verses later in what is called the cultural mandate or the creation mandate or the dominion mandate. And he calls them to go forward and have dominion. I've given you everything that you have. Go forward, multiply, have dominion, spread the glory of my name and point people back to me. Build stuff, raise families, have children. All of that should point back to the glory of me. And of course, that is not possible. The creation mandate, the dominion mandate given to Adam and Eve, and then of course passed on to all of us, is not possible without marriage. And so really, you can't talk about marriage, or you can't talk about dating without talking about marriage. Biblically checking dating means you're talking about marriage. And if you want a really good marriage episode, you can go back to my episode with my lovely wife. But I'm also very excited about this episode with Steve and Noelle, recently married. And so they're going to take us through what it means to date from a Christian perspective versus a worldly perspective. And then also some pro tips on marriage 4 or 5 months in. But just one more thing on dating itself, right? This is where the Christian or the biblical worldview is immediately at odds with a non-Christian or an unbiblical worldview when you talk about dating. Because the average non-Christian, the average person who's not familiar with a biblical worldview, just sees dating as something you do. It's something you do. It's a relationship that you have. Maybe you're doing it for sexual gratification. Maybe you're doing it to feel better about yourself. Maybe you're doing it to have a good time. Maybe you're doing it simply because you think the other person is attractive or funny or whatever. And if it goes somewhere, it goes somewhere. Now, I'm 53 years old and I've been married for 30 years. But I would imagine if you're in your 30s and you haven't been married yet, that perspective on dating changes a little. And I've seen it in conversations and pastoral dealings with other people, that conversation, that worldview on dating changes, because now you're like, okay, clock's ticking here. I'm 30X years old or older, and now I need a spouse. So that's a different perspective on dating from the world. But when we look at the dating from a biblical worldview, again, we need to link that to marriage. And so the big question is why would you date? Number one. Who would you date? Number two. And number three, is this person that you are considering dating going to be spouse material? Are they going to fulfill what the Bible says in Genesis 1? Are they going to fulfill what the Bible says in Colossians 3, in Ephesians 5? So when we biblically check dating, we need to look at all those passages. And really, the reality is that dating is preparation or audition for or testing to see if this person is marriage material or not. And if they're not, then why are you dating them? And if they are, then how are you moving towards marriage together in the new relationship? So that's a lot of what we're going to talk about here today. And so without further ado, I am going to give you over to Steve and Noelle Barlow. Well, Steve and Noelle, welcome to the Mic Check. thank you so much for joining me today in the Loftus Studios. I hope you're finding everything to your liking.
Yeah, very much. Very familiar with this space.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with this couch, actually.
Yeah, lots of people are familiar with that couch, and you guys are once again sitting on that couch. So thank you for
Absolutely.
sitting
I was
on that couch.
both a little surprised and honored and excited when
shucks.
you asked us onto this podcast. So thank you for having us.
It is my pleasure. Absolutely love you guys and proud of you guys and all of that. And so why don't you, for those of, I probably have 6 to 8 listeners. And so for those who may not know who you are, just give a brief introduction of who you are and what you do. And then we'll get into your relationship a little bit. You're going to go first. Ladies first,
Ladies
I'll
first.
go first. Well, I am Noelle Barlow. Recently. We got married in August. Before that, I was a Maynard.
I know several Maynards.
Yeah.
Perhaps I know all of them. Well, not all the Maynards.
You've probably met them all.
Okay.
Maybe not the one in Massachusetts.
Probably not.
He was at my wedding, though.
Yes.
So you would have met him there,
I
actually.
have. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Big fan.
Yeah, he's great. They're all great.
What do you do? What takes up your what else are you involved in life?
So I work at Today's Choice Women's Center. I am the development assistant and event coordinator there.
Okay.
So
we've heard of Today's Choice here on the Mic Check because
yes,
you
had my lovely boss, Lori Purst here.
Lori Purst in the flesh right here, right on that very couch.
Yeah.
Talking about Today's Choice. And what do you do there?
Well, I'm the development assistant. So I do a lot of like donor-based management and kind of things like that. I do all of our touch points with our donors. So like our newsletters, our social media for them.
Yep. And you do all the events too, right?
Yes, because I'm also the event coordinator.
Top-notch events. I've been to all of them.
Fundraising is my life.
Fundraising is my life.
It's fun, though.
It's so fun.
It is. Highlands Bible Church.
Highlands Bible Church. You're a member at Highlands Bible Church.
I am a member at Highlands Bible Church. I was gonna say like PSA, Highlands Bible Church, baby bottles coming soon, because I just had to say it.
Baby bottles coming soon. I didn't actually plan it like that, but yes, this Sunday we will be doing the kickoff for the baby bottles. You heard it here first.
Save your change
on the Mic Check.
But I am a member at Highlands Bible Church. I've been a member for I think a year. Maybe a little more.
A little over a year.
I think so. I know that when I took the Next Steps class, I left being like, oh, wow, I really haven't been attending here long enough to be a member yet, which was like kind of a funny thought, I think.
Those of you scoring at home, we did not make a special exception.
No, I had to wait. But I am a youth leader at Highlands.
Nice.
We serve together. We serve on bagel cleanup, and recently I have joined the worship team.
Word.
Love
it.
Yeah.
Love it.
I think that's everything.
That's good. That's pretty comprehensive.
Yeah. Cool.
Stephen with a PH, not to be
Yes.
confused with a V, the unbiblical saying.
Yeah.
Name, spelling of your name.
No, my mother named me appropriately after the Stephen from
Does anyone
the
say
Bible.
Stephen or?
By accident.
It's happened.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they're doing roll call and they read my name off of a list, I've heard
Stefan.
some people say Stefan.
Right.
Mm.
You're definitely not a Stefan.
Yeah, some words are challenging for some people.
So, what is it that you do during the week?
I work for an IT company, CDI, and we sell all things computer, storage, software. I am on the sales operations team.
Good.
I work with renewals, and we make sure none of the hardware that our customers buy falls off support.
Good.
Yeah.
Fully supported hardware is very important.
Yep. You don't want to be
especially
caught,
in today's economy.
with a bug or a break.
Definitely
out
not.
of support.
And you also are a member of this Highlands Bible Church.
Yeah, I've been a member for a little bit longer, probably about 3 years at this point. I had plenty of time as a layman here prior to going through the membership process. So I didn't have to wait like Noelle did. I took my sweet time really gauging how I felt about
whether
the
or not we're
church.
biblical. Yeah, all of that.
Really mulling over the
I remember we did your member
doctrinal
interview
statement.
back when we were in the pandemic lockout, lock
Yeah.
away,
Lockdown.
phase. Lockdown. Every other preposition except the
you
one
went
I
in
was
every
supposed to.
direction except for down.
Remember we did it over Zoom.
A lockup sounds fun. Like I
Or
want
a
to be
lock
part of a
in.
lockup.
We should do a
lock-in.
lock-in
Yeah.
with the youth group. Oh,
Do a lock-in with
man.
members.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds a little
Maybe
frightening.
lock them in. And, no. We can do a
Oh,
lock-in
maybe
with the
I
youth
think
group.
we're gonna miss the next meeting.
So you guys both have day jobs. Noelle's kind of got one foot in the ministry world as well, but that does help pay the bills.
Yep.
And you are located nearby in your first little apartment together because you guys got married when?
August
3rd.
August 3rd of 2023.
We got married last year.
Last year.
Oh, yeah, we did.
And so you've been married
Like 5.5.
5.5 months?
Yeah.
All right. Very, very cool.
Yeah.
And so let's kind of delve into, the history of Steve and Noelle a little bit in a general sense here.
Okay.
And so how did you guys first meet and develop your relationship?
Well, so we both had previously been. Well, I was a member. Were you a member at Green Pond?
Yes.
I was a member.
Okay.
Yes.
So we'd both been previously members at Green Pond. And we had met before, but we didn't really interact very much until coming to Highlands.
Yeah, we had attended Green Pond parallel.
Yeah.
each
So you
other.
knew
Our
who each
families,
other were.
yeah,
sort
our
of.
families had interacted.
Then you came here and then you actually got to know each other a
Yeah.
little bit.
My first day at Highlands, I walked in. I beat my sister and her family here, and I
glad you
scanned
said
the room.
I beat my sister and I was like, where are you going with this?
I scanned the room, and I was like, "Wow, this is a lot of strangers." And Emily's not here yet. I don't know what to do.
Go ahead. Keep going.
So I scanned the room, and I saw Steve over in the corner where we now sit all the time. And I was like, "Oh, there's someone who I recognize." And I walked up to him. He had turned around by the time I got over there, and I tapped him on the shoulder. And he turns around, and I was wearing a mask. It was wrapping up COVID days. And I also, literally that week, had
My heart
chopped
just hurt
18
when you said
inches off of my hair. So
What?
I looked unrecognizable to anyone, let alone someone who doesn't even know me that well. So he kind of turned around and was like, "Oh, hi." And then he turned back, and I did it again. And I was like, "No, you know me."
Well, from my
I'm Noelle."
perspective, it was just this beautiful young lady that I didn't recognize right away with this cute little bob haircut.
Steve,
and
be
these-
honest, how many times have beautiful young ladies tapped you on the shoulder and said hi? I'm thinking less than 2.
From what I can remember, this is the only time that's happened. These beautiful blue
That's the
eyes
move,
staring
girls.
at me. Yeah.
Just tell them that they know who you are.
We've met. You know me.
So I turned around and did just a scan of the room, see who was here, and I turned back and went to sit down.
He was like, "Who touched me?"
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And she thought, she was not going to let me ignore her. She was going to tap me on the shoulder. And
Now, at this time,
Make me
it's
say
totally
hello.
platonic, right? This is
Oh, yeah.
There's no stirring of special feelings. Or
No,
anything
it was
that.
the only person that I was like, "Oh, I know this person's name. Great." Oh, this is good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then what was it that kind of made you guys notice each other? Was there something that kind of clicked where it's like, hey, that might be a possibility. I kind of feel like maybe they're cute or funny or not weird or
I feel like we were both a little bit in denial about our feelings for each other
Yeah.
in the beginning. We were friends for a while and we were enjoying that friendship.
yeah.
And so when I started to catch feelings, I was like, "Oh, no, I can't do this."
We're friends.
Yeah, we're friends.
I don't want to wreck it.
Yeah.
He's friends with my sister and her family, so we naturally just ended up doing a lot of things
Okay.
together because then that friend group from church just kind of was like, "Oh, well, we're going to adopt Noelle now into this group of people." So we would just be at a lot of the same things.
Yeah.
And then like getting to know the Vreelands, they a couple times they would invite us both over, and I'd
Ron
be like,
Vreeland also has been a guest on Mic Check. Just throwing that
Yes.
out there.
I feel like most people in our friend group just started kind of trying to play matchmaker subtly. They would invite us to things, and then it would be like, oh, I thought it was just gonna be us. Oh, okay, no, Steve's coming. That's fine. Like, but then also like midweek really was I think
Midweek.
the biggest thing.
Oh man! Now that you said that, I'm going to get a million emails to start up midweek
I know.
again.
Yeah, it's where people are going to find their spouses.
Yeah, we used to.
You're going to get a whole wave of young singles.
Well, just call it single night. Hey,
That's kind of
we
where it
wanna go.
sparked out in the parking lot
Yeah.
of midweek.
Yeah. So we would both be at midweek. He would never like sit next to me until we were actually dating, but he'd sit like 3 chairs over. So nobody was between us.
Right, you got to leave room for the Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
yeah.
But then like, I mean, you were there.
I was there.
You would tell us like, guys, I got to lock the building and go home. Like,
Yeah, I saw it.
time to leave.
I saw
and
it.
then we would stand in the parking lot where our
Yeah,
cars
I
were
successfully
also
kicked you out of the church, and then
2 or
you stayed in
3.
the parking lot for
like our cars weren't next to each other either, but we would stand next to our
indeterminate
cars.
amount of time.
So funny. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a little relationship budded, and then eventually you actually declared yourself. You started dating.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Um,
What was that like?
it was nerve-wracking. You know, we had been friends for a
That wasn't
while.
the word I was expecting, but we'll go with it. Okay.
Well, I'll explain. You know, it's someone that I am learning like is a phenomenal Christian, a pillar of
High
faith.
praise.
She's beautiful. You know, I see her interacting with her nieces, and just how great of you can see her as a mother one day, someone who you want to raise and nurture
Not yet.
children with.
Just putting that there.
All of these pieces coming together to make this.
Did you say, and I don't say this to put you down because you know I love you dearly, but did you kind of feel like she was a little out of your league at that? Is that what you're saying? Like,
Oh yeah, no, definitely.
yeah.
So
I think that's a good feeling. I think that's the way most men should feel. Like, this is a reach for me.
yeah, yeah, and that's definitely how I felt at the time, which is why I was so nervous.
Yeah. Got it. Makes sense now. Okay.
But yeah, all these pieces that I saw in her that kind of came together to make this beautiful mosaic. Someone that I wanted to get to know
We
better.
should do this more often.
If we were in the
So-
Mic Check Studios 2.0, you would see that Noelle is tearing up. That was very nice.
So I asked her if she wanted to get dinner with me, a very covert operation.
Was not clear that it was a date.
No, but
He asked you to get dinner, so that
Well,
yeah, I asked
Yeah.
her if, I told her there was something that I would like to talk about.
and I was
with
like,
her.
either he's asking me out, or he's gonna apologize for leading me on. That was
Wow.
because I also thought that I was out of that he was out of my league.
aw,
Yeah.
both you guys. So you dated for a little bit, and then, as legend tells, you broke up for a little bit.
Yeah.
How long did you date, and then how long were you kind of broken up for at that point?
8 months we
Yeah.
dated, and then we were broken up for like 4 months.
8 months and 4 months, so like a year total.
Yeah,
8 months,
yeah.
4 months. Okay.
We got back together. Our like first date back was pretty much like the week of our first date.
Okay. And you guys got back together. What did you notice? I mean, as far as like differences, as far as let's affectionately call it Noelle and Steve 1.0 and 2.0. What did you notice were maybe some differences in 2.0? Maybe we'll go on the positive side. You know, what were some things that were like, okay, we had a reset. Like, how was that different than the first go round? Positively.
I think, well, for me, I like not in the whole like leading up to starting dating in 1.0. I really he's not kidding when we were both in denial. Like I really was like, no, until he asked me out, and I was like, sure, okay, yes, like got it.
All in.
Is that how that works?
It did that time.
I'll have to ask Melanie that if that's actually.
But so I really didn't put any like real thought into like preparation to date before that.
Okay.
And then it was like, bam, we were dating. Yep. So I was very quick to just be like, oh, like, you know, I'm going to spend all my time with him. I'm going to like, one, like I like to, like he's my bestie, but
I like you.
Yeah. I like big like him.
Yeah. We try to fill all of our free time with spending time with each other.
So like, and then that came like a little obsessive.
Okay.
So then like, I would be thinking like on a Tuesday night, like, okay, in the morning, like I got to get to work at this time. So, and I need to sleep X amount of time.
Right.
So I would like stay up later to spend time with him and then like forego devos in the morning or something. And like just like screw up my normal routine.
So things like spiritual disciplines kind of were getting less in favor of spending time.
Yeah.
That would be a yellow flag.
Yeah. Big yellow flag. But then I think I didn't even like realize that until the breakup. And then I was like, wow, I have a lot of time on my hands. And I worked a lot more during that time. And then I also just spent a lot more time like on my own. And so then in prayer and in the Bible. Yeah. Yep. And I really, like, I had to really like self-assess.
Yeah.
And I think of, in Psalms, David, when he says like to like, Lord, like reveal my heart.
Yeah.
That was like my big prayer the whole time.
Yeah. And you feel like he answered that?
Yeah. I think it really like, showed like I had like an idolatrous spirit about our relationship.
Okay.
But then like how everything works, if you're not putting the Lord first, like it's just nothing else is going to flow well from that.
Yeah.
So even like now, like the weeks that I'm not in the Bible, the weeks that I'm not like actively spending time in prayer and worship with the Lord are the weeks that I'm just not going to love Steve well. And then I'm not going to do my work well. And like, it just, everything flows from that.
Okay.
So I had to, that's what I learned.
Okay. Yeah. It's great. I like that. Steve, what about you? What would you say 2.0? What was there that wasn't there, or where were some growth points that you noticed in 2.0?
Well, I'll just start with going into 1.0. At that point in my life, I had kind of let some of my biblical disciplines lax.
Yeah.
I didn't have a very good routine Bible reading time in my life. My prayer life was struggling a little bit. There was...
And when we say those things, we're not saying those are like, you have to have those things like checking the box.
No.
Sure.
Those are tied to like a love and a devotion.
Yeah, it's your priorities Christ. Or the affections of your heart.
Exactly. Yeah.
Gotta have them in order.
Yep.
The disciplines, though, were not
well,
there.
they reveal our hearts, right? We want to spend time in the Word. We want to pray. And if we're not doing those things, as Noelle was saying, maybe something always is going to take that place, whether or not it's a relationship or job or money or whatever it's going to be.
Yeah. And I think that became clear to me during the break. And in my time with you, as we were discipling.
We spent a lot of time together during those 4 months.
A lot of good discipleship from you. And, that helped expedite sort of the path that I was on to reignite sort of that desire in my heart to have a good routine reading the Bible. Things that I didn't have to bring into the relationship because they didn't exist in my personal life.
And especially as a husband, right? Because let's face it, somewhat of Noelle's quality and character as a Christian and believer, and I'm sure she feels the same about you, and you guys had an eye towards marriage. And if you're, especially for the husband, I think, speaking for you, I think you realized that was like, wow, if I'm actually going to do this thing, if I'm actually going to go into this looking towards marriage, these things are non-negotiable. Like I have to be the spiritual leader. I have to, it's not just checking off the boxes in the reading plan. It's like, is Christ the Lord of my life or not?
Are you just going through the motions, or is this real for you?
Yeah. So you'd say that's the point where it got real, and that's the point where you could then look at the relationship 2.0 in a fresher perspective with that.
Yeah, and then going into 2.0, I felt more armed with the armor of God to be able to be the spiritual leader of our relationship, practicing my role as a husband. As, we were working towards marriage. We were not dating flippantly. We had a purpose. We had a goal. And we had roles and responsibilities that we needed to work on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we could have an awesome marriage.
What would you say, like...
So far, so good.
So far, so good, definitely. What would you say, because, you're not going to find the word dating in a concordance.
Yeah.
You open your Bible, you're not going to find dating in there. What do you think biblically the purpose is of dating? So what is dating then from if we were to biblically check dating, which is why we're here, what's a biblical perspective on dating in general?
I think so. Like you can't take, as a Christian, you can't take dating like away from marriage. I think if you're dating as a Christian, it should be because you want to be a spouse someday.
Right. So you have an eye towards marriage, and you're kind of assessing whether or not this relationship is, this has potential for marriage. Yeah, this guy could be a good biblical husband. It's not just, I guess the opposite of that is a non-biblical worldview of dating is you're just dating. To have relationships.
Dating,
hook
like
up,
it
do whatever
feels
you're
good.
Doing, right?
Like he makes me like feel pretty. He makes me feel funny. Like if it's really like about like all of that, then it's really not like standing on anything. It's not going to last.
Yeah. It was like in our premarital book, right? If the only reason you're with them is because they make them feel better about yourself, that kind of just says...
Yeah. You know what's funny? I married him for the money, and now I've spent it all. So that didn't last long. No.
We'll have you guys on in the finance, biblically checking finance. No, that's really good.
Yeah. But I think like the process of like knowing if you can marry someone can take one date, but it could also take quite a few.
Well, you might have a gut reaction.
Yeah.
Wow, like this person, they're cute, they're funny, like, they check all the boxes on the surface, but then, seeing them, getting to know them.
They can make you feel like yucky.
They could, or they could verify, right? They could verify that, this could work. Yeah. Anything to add to that, Mr.
I think
Barlow?
a good point of clarification is there's about 8 years difference between Noelle and myself.
What?
Which I think
this. Of course.
I think there was a little bit of a difference in each of our perspectives as we approached dating. She's this young, attractive beauty who's looking at the world like, she's got the pearl of an oyster in the palm of her hand.
Yes.
Whereas I'm on sort of the other end of the spectrum where I'm 30 years old now and I'm still single. So like I'll date anyone.
That makes you the pearl.
No, but I just naturally, I've been a particularly picky person when it comes to relationships. And I'm glad that I waited for the right person to come along because it ended up being you. And I could not be happier with who God had always had planned for me for a spouse.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the way it is, right? Dating is you're looking to find, not that there's like the one, right? But it's the one that God has picked for you. Like this is your spouse.
This is God's will. We're married, so it is God's will.
Exactly. We're married, so it's God's will. And it's not like I say, like there's that one person. Like if you don't find the right person, then everybody in the world is one person off because you took someone else's. No, it's not what we're talking about. But it's like God is sovereign. God exercises His providence in situations, and so think about that. Like He knew that you guys would get married, and He led you together.
Yeah.
Yay!
And that's a good thing.
Yeah,
that's a real good thing. As far as now, so maybe this is 3.0, right? Now this is marriage.
Now that we've consummated.
You I forgot I had those buttons. Darn, I'm going to have to get going with those. 3.0, right? Mm-hmm. How is marriage now? It seems like if to the casual observer, it's like 1.0, you had some stuff to learn. 2.0, you learned those things. So this is like getting better. And now like marriage is like 3.0. Like, so is that what it is? Like, so in what ways is marriage like so much better than dating?
I think that
it's like you've reached the mountaintop.
Yeah. Well, hopefully not the mountaintop.
Kinda.
Hopefully,
I feel like sometimes we're still climbing
to grow closer to each other, closer to God, and we continue to summit. I guess sort of this endless mountain until we reach our final resting place and get to just glory in heaven in God's presence.
Yeah.
But right now, obviously, is the best
awesome.
part of our relationship thus far.
I do think, though, I just thought of this. It kind of does have some similarities to like the breakup in that I think of the 4 phases, like 1.0 breakup, 2.0 now marriage. I'm learning the most.
In marriage, you're learning the most.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So like,
tell us about that.
Okay. Like I thought like, oh, in the breakup, I really dealt with like my heart issues, but then like he leaves the closet door open and I'm like, oh, there's my heart issue again, but like, I know that's like a silly example, but just like living with someone new, like everything's in closer proximity. I can't like walk away and like hide my literal dirty laundry.
Yeah.
Like the man had never like been in my bedroom until we were packing stuff up to move me. So like he didn't know my mess. Like he didn't know like my like
you have a messy bedroom.
I don't right now, actually.
Okay.
Because
actually,
of me.
I've been at home cleaning all day. So
yeah, but in marriage you don't get that privacy.
Yeah. There's no like
When you're dating, you say goodnight.
You can kind of go back to your corners and go
right?
home and
and you can sort of hide whatever part of ugly piece of your personality that you don't want to show the other person. That's all revealed.
Or even
in marriage,
like Steve most of the time works from home, and when he doesn't, he works 5 minutes away. So even not having like a commute to like decompress from your day, it goes from like the desk to the living room, and it's like right off like a stressful day, and he doesn't have a minute to like rationalize and like do like all the things to like get work out of his brain and just to be at home. So like even having to deal with
when you
that,
come home, and you've gotten the commute home.
Yeah,
you walk in the front door. You're excited and bubbly to see me.
She's
and then
raring to go with spousal interaction.
And he's like not even done like working, and then when he is, he still needs like a minute to like decompress. And I didn't like know that because I've never like worked from home.
But you didn't witness that.
Yeah, and I never witnessed it during dating.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's just like learning things, like good and bad. But like, I mean, we're human, so of course. But I feel like learning how to just like function as a pair.
Yeah.
Instead of as an individual.
Sure. Yeah. What would you say the sweetest thing is that you discovered in marriage?
Functioning as a pair instead of an individual.
Exactly what I just said. Yeah, that you're no longer on your own, right?
Yeah.
It reminds me of Ecclesiastes, right? The 3 chords, chord of 3 strands not easily broken, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of the idea. in that you now have someone else, you have a companion. And you guys, what was it, 4 months, 5 months that you've been married?
We've been married five
5 months.
5 months,
Five
right?
and a half.
Yeah.
So in April, Mel and I will be 30 years.
Oh,
and
wow.
so
Congratulations.
on that, and it's not yet. I could blow it. It's, it's January. I got a couple more months. No, by God's grace. I hope that won't happen. That's been one of the most sweetest things. So keep heading in that direction. It's like, of course, I'm always attracted to Mel and think she's beautiful and want to be with her, but it's that companionship that gets sweeter and sweeter. You just want to be together. That's and that keeps growing.
Well, it's sanctifying.
Yeah.
Living with someone, living so closely to someone.
Dude, if we think it's sanctifying now, just wait till we get to 30 years,
It can be.
Then you just know that you're going to get mad before it happens because you know what they're going to do.
It can be a bit of ripping off a Band-Aid when someone gets to see sort of your dirty laundry.
Yeah.
When
Here it is.
Yeah, here it is. But these are things that you can hide from yourself, even.
That's a good one. Talk about that.
You can put sins in your own closet because no one's rooting around in there. You're not sharing it with anyone. So you can keep, again, like ugly parts of your personality away from the person that you're dating.
That's real good. And then
when
lovely
you start sharing that closet,
No comes
she's
around and says,
opening
"What is
the
that?"
door and seeing all of my dirty socks that I haven't washed.
Metaphorically.
It's sanctifying.
Yeah, because I wash them now.
Which is glorifying.
Yeah,
We're able to glorify God better now.
And how is that? Do you guys? I know the answer to this, but for our viewers at home, is that something you do regularly? Not wash your socks, but talk about point things out, to each other. Be like, hey, I noticed that.
Mm-hmm.
He's a lot better at that than I am. Mostly because
I would not agree. I was about to say that's been one of the hardest things about communication is how to navigate addressing things in your life that either just bother me or need to be fixed.
Yeah, one of the many verses we talked about during our time together in counseling, and I probably mentioned it in the ceremony, right? The idea that husbands, we love our wives the way Christ loved the church, but with a direction, right? That he might sanctify her, having cleansed her by the washing of the water with the word. So that the way that we love each other as husbands and wives is we're supposed to be contributing to each other's sanctification. And we can't do that unless we do have a way of saying, hey, what was that? Or what is that you're trying to hide in your spiritual closet there that you've been rationalizing as a sin for the 30 years that we haven't been together, right? Now that I'm here, someone else comes along and looks in and it's like, that's not okay. Like the Bible says this. And so, So is that something that happens? Well, go ahead.
That verse, it talks about husbands love your wives, and then with an example, as Christ loved the church. And that is the epitome of selfless love.
Yeah.
I should love you as like Christ died for the church, which is selfless love. So in pointing out those dirty socks in your closet, it's not to curtail you to my preferences. It's for the point of sanctification and navigating that conversation, addressing those flaws that we see in each other can be tricky. But I think that we've gotten better at it, and we've developed a pretty good cadence with helping sanctify one another.
Good. And the problem is when you never have those conversations, then it's either you just ignore them and bitterness grows and then people grow apart, or else when something really big happens, then you blow up. And,
and then you talk about all of it at once.
Talk about all of it at once.
And I feel like even that, like you might not even blow up, but if you save everything and then be like, hey, let's sit down and talk about this, then it's just going to feel like, wow, you've been keeping like track of this.
This is how you really felt.
Yeah. I was like, wow. Okay. But yeah, so I think that's where that's what I mean when I say Steve's better at it. Steve's better at like whenever he's the soonest point after I've done something that he's not like, actively upset at me, he'll be like, hey, like, let's talk about this. Like, this isn't great or whatever.
Good. That's real good.
Yeah.
That's definitely how we should be going about that. What about like, maybe we can talk to the people who aren't there yet, who aren't married. Either they're single or they're wanting a spouse. Maybe each of you could kind of speak to, in your respective genders, biological genders, biblical genders, right? The idea. So Steve, speak to some future husbands. What are the things that you could be doing now to be preparing yourself for marriage?
I think it's very important to pray for that other person.
Okay.
Help God prepare your heart to be able to identify what a biblical woman looks like when she comes along. Yeah. Be familiar with these passages that women read and try to exemplify in their life, like Proverbs 31. You can kind of match up to see, like, is this how God describes a biblical woman?
Right. So in other words, that's what a biblical woman looks like. Mm-hmm. Proverbs 31, that'd be a great, that's one of the great passages to look at, so that when you see somebody and you're like, hey, she has a lot of these characteristics, you're able to spot them. Yeah.
And the rest of the Bible too should also be evident in that person's life, not just the one chapter of Proverbs, but you should see someone's the fruits of the Spirit evident in their lives.
Okay. And again, you won't know those fruits of the Spirit unless you
practice them
know
yourself.
them or practice them yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's the other. There's a flip side of the coin. You want to pray for that other person, that you can identify them when they come along.
Yeah.
But also, don't neglect to pray for yourself too, because I can speak a little bit from experience. When that biblical woman comes along, the last thing you want to happen is feel like you don't even deserve her. You want to be working, reading through Ephesians chapter 5. What does a biblical husband look like?
Yeah.
And you have to be hard on yourself.
Yeah.
So that you are worth the person that you're even praying to meet.
Compatible too. I mean, oftentimes I'll say, it sounds like a broken record, but you have to be that biblical man that a biblical woman is going to be looking for.
Just to throw something out there, you mean you have to be equally yoked? Oh.
Absolutely. Oh. And of course, not only as believer to believer, but you should be striving for maturity, right? And that was so powerful what you said, as far as like to have that feeling of you see this woman come into your life, or whether she's just a relationship or a friend, or you get to know her and just like, wow, like that would be the ideal. But I'm not.
But you better be ready to deserve someone like that when they come around.
Yeah. Yeah. Or even, get her attention, because if she looks at you and it's going to be like, okay, well, he's kind of cute, but
kind of a bum.
He's kind of a bum. He's not real spiritually mature. He doesn't really have he's not really demonstrating leadership. She's going to be like, next.
Yeah.
That's good. Very powerful. Okay. Miss Noelle, what would you say to the aspiring young ladies out there preparing themselves for marriage?
Well, first, I actually, I think that, so like growing up, obviously, I heard a lot about the Proverbs 31 woman. And I actually think that's not always great, because that is the description of a godly wife. So a lot of things are not super practical.
Right.
So I think it takes a lot of like discernment.
There's not much buying and selling of fields
Yeah,
while you're
right?
single. Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
It's hard to like show hospitality in the
Sure.
general like sense of what that means when you don't have your own home or house.
Yeah.
So I think that there's a little bit too much of an emphasis on that for like girls growing up and talking about dating. I think obviously those are great things to aspire to, but you're going to aspire to them. Like it's going to be a natural outpouring of you having a solid relationship with Jesus Christ, knowing the Bible, knowing like what God has called you to.
Yeah.
Like, you know, dating's all about like, who do you love? But like, you need to love the Lord and love his commandments, like keep his commandments. So if you are doing that, then you are going to just naturally, once you like fall into that relationship or however you want to like say that, once you find your person, you're going to exhibit those things
It's gonna
better.
click. It ideally should
it's
be.
It's not like just a list of things that like, oh, well, like if I'm like a wifely woman now, then I'll, then they'll want me to be their wife. And it's like, no, like you have to be like a woman. Like you have to
in context.
Yeah. You have to just like be a solid Christian. So focus on that.
Yeah. I've seen it way too many times as a pastor, and I'm sure you guys have seen it too. The idea that maybe someone wants that relationship so bad or wants that marriage so bad that they end up settling.
Yeah.
Right? Like people around them can kind of tell like they are like, she's like miles above him. Sorry, Steve. And to me, but
we all know.
It's usually that way. Like for some reason, the women tend to be farther ahead spiritually, emotionally mature.
That's why I married a man 8 years older than me.
There you go.
Yeah, you don't want to.
It's that temptation to settle, right?
You don't want to settle for the first person that walks through the door.
Yeah.
Noelle walked through the door of Highlands, and I very definitely noticed it. But we were friends for a long time before we started dating, and that friendship, we would hang out in groups a lot. Allowed us to see how each other, I'll just speak for myself, it allowed me to see how she interacted with other people. It allowed me to see some of her convictions when we would just get into general conversations, how she would talk, what she would talk about, the words that she would say, the clothes that she would wear. That was something that I noticed right away about Noelle. She's a very modest dresser. And I thought that was very attractive. Maybe a little contrary to, what the world would say about a woman. But
yeah, absolutely. They probably say the opposite. You need to show more skin to catch a big fish, right? I have no idea what that means.
And that's okay. And wait, just backtrack for a second, because we were talking about
modesty?
Nope.
Dressing?
It was before
Nope.
that.
Before that?
Sorry. Just give me a second.
Settling?
Yeah, that's what it was. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Talking about settling, I think that this is a thing that women struggle with more than men, because I think in general, women are more prone to being discontent.
Okay.
So like, I don't want to be single anymore. Okay, I'll settle.
Right.
Just very, just aren't happy where they are. So they just want to keep on moving forward. And I think that is something that like girls who are currently single need, or everybody really, but particularly girls who want to be dating to marriage need to work on. Yeah. Because
so it's not just discontentment in relationship. You're saying it's discontentment maybe
in general,
spiritually as a whole. Yeah, that's good.
Because you see girls like not pursue careers because they're like, well, I want to be a wife and mother, but then they're not even dating. And it's like, okay, well, you kind of do have to like live your life.
Yeah.
So like
You
pursue
need
the
food.
Yeah, pursue the degree, pursue the career, but then also hold it loosely, because then like you could meet a man and you all of a sudden you're a wife and mother, like, and you like you can't. Yeah, so you have to like use like that. I don't know. It's like contentment, but also like
Yeah.
like just discernment. Like just as an example,
go ahead.
I was in community college when I met Steve, and I had a couple professors convince me that I could get into Princeton to be an architect.
Okay.
So I got my degree in graphic design, and my last year I was like, okay, yeah, cool. That'd be cool. I'll apply to Princeton. Like, how nuts would that be? And then I met Steve and I was like, actually, I'm not doing any more school after this. Like, I'm not gonna, like,
I'm done.
Yeah. So like, yeah, you kind of like have to like, yeah, make your plans, but the Lord's going to direct your steps.
Right.
So like you
That's a good one. Yeah.
you have to like be okay with that changing.
Yep.
And then also with jumping into a relationship and settling, there's always going to be things that could be better in your life. Like right now, we're always on Zillow looking at houses. We rent. We love our apartment, but like we know that we're not going to live there forever. So we just keep on like looking at Zillow. But in that meantime, though, we do have to be content with our beautiful apartment it's our home. It's our first home together. Like, there's going to be things.
Thankful for it, right?
Yeah.
Which you guys are. It's not like I can't wait to get out of this dump.
Yeah.
And go somewhere else.
But you have to, like, contentment in all seasons is so hard. And I feel like we say that kind of thing like a lot.
Yeah.
But it really, like, it's important because you can't just, like, being married isn't going to fix your problems. Like,
I think there's an allegory in there. Just because on the horizon we can see ourselves buying a house and moving in and making it our home, that doesn't mean we're going to neglect the apartment that we're living in now.
Yeah.
We're going to fix the leaky sink. We're going to keep it clean.
I know where you're going. Keep going.
We're going to maintain... I don't even know where I'm going.
Oh,
I know where you're going. The listeners probably know where you're going.
We're going to maintain
the apartment, right? You're going to do your thing.
The apartment.
Yeah. You have to take care of what you have control of right now.
Yes, and that speaks also about where you are at in your life.
Yeah, 100%.
If you know and want to carry out God's biblical design for you to one day get married, that's good and that's great.
Yeah.
But you have to be living your life and glorifying God in the meantime. You can't put your whole life on hold just in anticipation of that person.
Yeah. So you're saying be 100% diligent with where the Lord has you, wherever that is. And it's not like we're going to miss God's will for us, right? It's not like God's up there going, well, you were this close to a spouse, but then you poured yourself into your career and everything else, and he just walked by and you didn't even notice him.
Yeah. You're never going to thwart God's plans.
Such a great word. Thwart.
You might as well be getting yourself as ready as possible for when that time comes along.
When that person comes along, the Lord will make it very, very clear. Maybe on like just a total practical note, and you may not even be able to answer this, but some ideas. If someone's just like, okay, maybe I'm doing those things. Maybe I feel like I'm doing all those things. Like I feel like I'm being diligent. I feel like I'm part of a good church. I'm being 100% where I am right now, right? But I'm still not finding anyone.
Maybe you have to take your glasses off. Maybe you have to take your hair out of a ponytail. Maybe
you have to do the chick flick, just revamp your whole style. Oh my gosh. No, I'm going to answer that one. So no. I think, so yes, you can have like a really good spiritual life and be a very godly person, but there are still things that there are things you can do that just deter other people.
Okay.
I think as a girl, not to say like, oh, you just have to be like quiet and like gentle, because I'm not those things. So, well, I can be, but anyway, but I think I think women do run the risk of being intimidating to guys, and being unapproachable to guys.
Okay.
I think you have to be careful on like your friendship levels. You could like with guys, you can have really great friendships. But I think if you have like a lot of guy friends, a guy might see that and be like, oh, I'm not gonna like,
Yeah. Okay.
like pursue that. And not to say like, yeah, I think having guy friends is fine. But like if you're too,
Yeah,
if
right.
you're too
It's like,
chummy with them.
yeah, it's like what
like,
vibe does that give?
yeah.
off?
Come off
You
as
have
someone
to
who's
like
too
thread,
flirtatious.
yeah, you have to
Okay.
thread the like toe the line of being like friendly and like kind to everyone, right?
Right,
Without
right.
but like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
No,
But yeah,
that's a good one.
I feel like as Christians, it's hard to like, yeah.
And
things
maybe,
just-
I mean, I don't know. I'm not a woman. But
No.
Thanks, Steve, for that.
And you never
verification.
will be.
Well,
Mic checked.
I was mic checked on my own mic check. There you go. Is that something we could ask our friend? Like, how do we? Because obviously, when we have those moments, we don't even really know that what that looks like. Like, is that something where we just would have the wherewithal to be like to a girlfriend or something, like say, am I giving off like this vibe? Like, how do you think guys perceive me in general? Do they perceive me as potentially a biblical spouse, or they just perceive me as like haha fun, or like, is that something we can ask, or what would you say?
It should
to,
be.
Okay.
It should be something we can ask.
Who do you ask?
You should ask someone older and wiser than you.
Someone that knows you really well.
Yeah, and someone who knows you really well. Someone who's seen you in different like settings. Because like if you only see somebody at church,
Yep.
like you're not really getting the full picture. You have to like live your life with somebody. So
Yeah.
if you're seeing them in multiple settings, interacting with multiple different groups of people,
Yeah.
then it's like, okay, like that's the person who you should ask to really like assess that.
Yep.
And you also, if you ask that question, you have to be ready to receive an answer with
You
criticism.
open that door.
But like also with that
might
thing
not like what they say.
specifically,
Yeah.
like that's not a moral thing. Like
Yeah.
if you're like, there are things just living in a social world
Right.
that are pros and cons,
Yeah.
and they're not they're not. If someone criticizes
Yeah,
them,
you're
it's
talking
not,
about on a relational level. I mean,
Yeah.
but it could be a moral thing.
It could be,
Like if somebody
yeah.
was saying, well, first of all, you can stop hanging out with all the guys dressing immodestly and
Yeah.
getting drunk every weekend. Like, you know, those are things that somebody might have to say to you. Like,
Yeah.
you're not going to find a godly husband doing those things. But yeah, it could be a relational thing as well, where it's just like, hey, have you ever thought of it this way?
yeah.
Ever thought of what this looks like? Yeah.
Especially it also depends on like the kind of guy you're trying to attract.
Yeah.
So I think that is like a huge thing to keep in mind. Like, who am I trying to attract? Like, why do I even want to be dating?
Yep.
Is there someone specific that's making me realize that I want to be dating? Whether that be like you like a guy, or you have a friend who's dating, like, and you just like want to be like it, like you just think you should be like,
Yeah.
that's not a good enough reason.
Yeah.
You know?
Be intentional in that. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think we've all met people that just kind of seem to always perpetually be in a relationship.
Yeah.
And it's just like, are they like, do they just not want to be alone, or like, what's
Yeah.
the deal there? Yeah, that's a good one. What would you say, Steve, to some single dudes who maybe have not yet found that person? What are some pro
Well,
tips?
It hits pretty close to home. You know, I went a long time before finding the right person, and there's discouragement along the way. If it's me, is there a problem with me? Like, am I unattractive? Both, you know, on the outside and on the inside, physically and spiritually. But Just give me a second. Whoop.
Mic bump.
Mic bump.
Mic bump on the mic check.
And we can edit like this whole gap to just make it like
No, because that's the
closer together.
I want
so
them
that
to
it seems like
experience the
I just
Steve
want
Barlow.
people.
Yeah.
I just want
Long
people
pauses is
Long
part of what
pauses.
you're getting.
Yes, yeah. If you're gonna be with Steve,
to think of me and simultaneously think of someone who's like snappy and quick with like an answer always. You know,
I much prefer the thoughtful, like, doesn't just say the first thing that comes to mind, Steve.
it is a little disconcerting. Like the first time it happens, you're like, did he just
Yeah.
space out? Like,
did his
he-
battery fall
Yeah,
out?
what just happened?
And then he'll say something like so profound,
Yeah,
and
then
you're
he
like,
re-engages.
I don't know
oh,
about that.
oh, you were thinking before speaking? Marry me.
I think don't be discouraged. I think God has a plan for everyone, and it's different for every single person. For me, there was just unbeknownst to me, a lot of time had to pass by for God to teach me certain lessons in my life to prepare me to be the husband that Noelle needs.
Yeah.
And I don't know that a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. I don't know that God is putting very specific trials in my life to teach me very specific lessons that I will take and use in my marriage and my relationship with Noelle. You know, that's not information that's freely given to us when we're single for longer than we want to be.
Yeah.
But throughout every moment of your life, God is preparing you if you are listening and willing with an open heart to be prepared.
Are you saying that God uses all things?
Everything.
Every single thing? There's nothing wasted? Not even those years that were clicking by where you were waiting for Noelle?
God used every single one of those years that clicked by me to help prepare me to be the husband that Noelle needed.
Ooh, I like that. That was good.
Yeah.
That's a good place to wrap up.
Oh,
I like that.
Okay.
But I do just want to thank you guys so much for taking the time to come on the mic check. But I also just wanted to encourage you guys. We love you dearly, and we are so ridiculously proud of you guys. And just think, even as a pastor, like pastorally, not just step out of the friend for a moment, but put on the pastor hat. This is what we love to see. Pastor loves to see not only couples getting together at his church, but right, celebration of marriage. Like, you guys are overjoyed to be married, and that just brings glory to God. And you both are diligent at it and take it very seriously in the sense of, no, this is our calling right now, and we're going to be the best biblical husband and wife that we possibly can be. And so that is super encouraging. So thank you guys very much.
yeah, thank you for having us.
Absolutely.
I had a great time.
Well, I hope you have enjoyed this episode of The Mic Check. Thank you once again to my guests, Steve and Noelle, for coming on the program. I hope you found that helpful. If you'd like to follow us on any of the social medias, we are there. You can always go to the miccheckpodcast.com. We'd love to hear from you. Fill out a contact us form, or else you can email me at mike@themiccheckpodcast.com. If you're interested in Highlands Bible Church in Vernon, you can go to our website, highlandsbiblechurch.org. We are also on all of the socials as well, but the best way to get to know us is to come to visit us in person. We worship on the Lord's Day on Sunday at 9:30 a.m., and we would love to meet you in person. Until then, please continue to check the unbiblical with the biblical, and we'll see you next time on The Mic Check.